In Haiti, the UN warns that almost half of the population needs urgent humanitarian aid in the face of the social and political crisis. In Germany, hundreds gather in Munich to celebrate the closure of the European nation's last nuclear power plants. And in Sudan, at least 3 civilians were killed after heavy clashes between the army and the so-called Rapid Support Forces following negotiations for a way out of the political crisis. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Haiti, with gangs, hunger and cholera plunging nearly half of the population into humanitarian need, the United Nations and its partners are seeking to deliver life-saving assistance this year to more than 3 million people. According to UN Humanitarian Coordinator in Haiti, Ulrika Richardson, the full 2023 humanitarian response plan, which will be launched on April 19th, comes at a critical time. In this sense, Richardson added that this year's plan will address the most immediate humanitarian and protection needs, while strengthening people's and institutions' resilience to natural shocks. The $720 million plan is the largest for the Caribbean countries since the devastating 2010 earthquake and more than double the amount requested last year. On Saturday, dozens of abortion rights reporters rallied outside the U.S. Supreme Court against the Texas judge's decision to revoke the Food and Drug Administration approval of the abortion pill, mifepristone. Earlier this week, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit temporarily halted the lower court's revocation of regulatory approval, preserving access to pills containing mifepristone, but allowed the restriction on their use to enter into force from Friday. According to Women's March, a social movement that coordinates the protests, several mobilizations will be held nationwide in the U.S. against the manipulation of the judicial system and the current political agenda against women. Rachel O'Leary Carmona, executive director of the movement, denounced that the courts have been filled with radical politicians and added that the battle over abortion is about their rights, their families, and their future. In the United States, families of those killed in the Boston Marathon bombing marked the 10th anniversary of the tragedy on Saturday by walking to the memorial sites near the finish line and laying wreaths. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, who was making her first run for city council when the bombing happened, joined the somber procession along with Governor Maura Haley. At each memorial site marked with 3 stone pillars for the 3 victims, they stood with the families in silence. The Boston Marathon bombing was an attack that took place during the annual Boston Marathon on April 15, 2013. 2 brothers, Josakhar Tsarnaev and Tamerlan Tsarnaev, planted 2 homemade pressure cooker bombs, which detonated near the finish line of the race, killing 3 people and injuring hundreds of others, including 17 who lost limbs. On Saturday, the Nicaraguan government said they promote bilateral cooperation with China with the signing of projects on thermal energy and housing construction. The Nicaraguan Minister of Transport and Infrastructure, Oscar Mojica, highlighted the advances in the organization process of the housing construction project called Nuevas Victorias. Over 920 houses will be built for social benefit in the first stage. Mojica specified that in total it includes the construction of 12,034 houses in a 3-year period. On the other hand, both sides agreed to increase the installed energy capacity in Nicaragua with 150 megawatts of thermal power plants. The president of the China International Development Cooperation Agency, Luo Xiaohui, who visits Nicaragua for the first time, said that other projects in the fields of agriculture, education, and infrastructure were also discussed. Paraguay's Public Health and Social Welfare Ministry reported that at least 90 people have died as a result of Chikungunya epidemic. According to the latest report from the Health Ministry, since the end of 2022, in Paraguay, a total of 91 people have died from the disease, 90 of them in 2023. For it is warned that the victims are mostly people over 60 years of age or children under 1 year old. The document in Paraguay points out that during the last 3 epidemiological weeks, over 10,000 new cases of the disease have been reported and a total of 198 people have been hospitalized as a result of the sickness. Brazilian President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva held a meeting with his counterpart, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, as part of his official visit to the United Arab Emirates. According to the information provided by Brazil's Foreign Ministry, at the meeting with the Zayed Al Nahyan, the heads of state discussed issues on trade, investment, energy, transition, climate change, and global security. They also addressed the role of Brazil and the United Arab Emirates in the United Nations Security Council as non-permanent members. Following the meeting, both leaders are expected to hold a press conference to assess results of the encounter. Lula da Silva will return to Brazil on Sunday morning, April 16th. In Colombia, authorities report instability in the Nevado del Ruiz volcano after increasing the cracking of rock inside the volcano in the last hours. The Colombian Geological Service reported that small earthquakes were registered in the last hours in the Arenas crater with 0.3 magnitude. The entity explained that the presence of thermal anomalies at the bottom of the crater and the continuous ash outflow are indicators of a higher level of activity compared to previous weeks. Meanwhile, risk management authorities are working at Celta and Tolima departments in order to insist on evacuation routes for the communities near high threat zones. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the south. Several hundred demonstrators gathered in Munich to celebrate the closure of Germany's last nuclear power plants. On Saturday, the last 3 nuclear reactors in operation in the country were shut down for good, while many Western nations are upping their investments in atomic energy to reduce their emissions. Germany brings an early end to its nuclear age. Europe's largest economy has been looking to leave behind nuclear power since 2002, but the phase-out was accelerated by former Chancellor Angela Merkel in 2011. After the Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. Meanwhile, Greenpeace, at the heart of the anti-nuclear movement, organized a celebratory gathering at the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin to mark the occasion.
Yes, it's really a party to celebrate the exit because today the last nuclear reactors in Germany are being shut down. I don't think that Germany will get there. In fact, it should have done it a long time ago. But unfortunately, the past government did nothing for many years, or rather blocked renewable energies. We have to make up for that now so that we have enough renewable energies to ensure a secure supply.
And the worst thing is that nobody knows what to do with the nuclear waste. There is no place on Earth where it can be stored.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida resumed his election campaign activities after being evacuated unharmed from an election rally in the west of the country rocked by an explosion. Kishida was evacuated in Wakayama, where he had gone to deliver a speech in support of a local ruling party candidate. Seconds later, the detonation was heard and the place was filled with white smoke. Witnesses at the scene reported moments of panic. The minister announced that despite the event, he would participate in another public event in Chiba near Tokyo. Local authorities confirmed a 24-year-old man from the Hyogo region was arrested. This explosion also comes less than a year after the assassination of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe during an election rally, which shocked the country and led to increased security at these public events.
Cerca de Nagano, previas a la cumbre de líderes de este grupo en Hiroshima en mayo.
On Saturday, the group of 7 ministers meeting on climate, energy, and environment kicked off in Sapporo, Japan. This is the first ministerial-level G7 meeting to be held in the country this year, in which Japan holds the rotating presidency. Economy, Trade, and Industry Minister Yasutoshi Nishimura and Environment Minister Akihiro Nishimura were present at the opening ceremony. On this occasion, energy supply stability and decarbonization efforts are on the agenda of the 2-day meeting, with a major focus on whether an agreement can be reached on a timeline for ending coal power generation. On Saturday, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that Russian forces successfully advanced on the outskirts of the Ukrainian locality of Bakhmut. Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov said that Wagner's assault units successfully advanced, capturing 2 districts on the northern and southern outskirts of the town. During his daily press briefing, Konashenkov added that Ukrainian troops, while retreating, are deliberately destroying city infrastructure and residential buildings to slow down the advance of Moscow's forces. Military analysts have said that seizing Bakhmut would have public relations and tactical military value for Moscow.
In the Donetsk direction, the most fierce fighting continues in the area of the city of Bakhmut. As a result of operation, the Wagner assault units have successfully advanced, capturing 2 districts on the northern and southern outskirts of the city. The units of the armed force of Ukraine remaining in Bakhmut, while retreating, are deliberately destroying city infrastructure and residential buildings in order to slow the advance of our troops. Detachment of the airborne troops pin down the enemy on the flanks and support the action of the assault detachment to capture the city.
The acting head of the Donetsk region, Denis Pushilin, confirmed the first grain shipments from the commercial port of Mariupol city. The senior official informed the Mariupol port is ready to use its full capacity for the import of construction materials and for grain export. According to the official, the first grain shipments will start leaving from this important port on the Sea of Azov in the next 2 weeks. Pushilin added that this will reduce the long lines of ships trading in the region. A report from the International Energy Agency details that despite Western sanctions against Russia's energy sector, the Eurasian country reached its highest level of oil exports in 3 years. According to the IEA, Russian raw oil shipments reached 8.1 million barrels daily, after reporting an increase of some 600,000 barrels a day. The report details that oil byproduct exports reached 3.1 million barrels a day, representing an increase of some 450,000 barrels daily. According to data from Kepler Monitoring Service, quoted by local media, the main buyers of Russian raw oil are Turkey, India, and China. In that sense, the information indicates that New Delhi and Beijing bought close to 90% of the Russian crude oil flow transported by sea during the first quarter of the year. TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat, dial 461 and enjoy Latin American alternative broadcasts. One final short break. We'll be right back. Don't Welcome back from the south. On Saturday, at least 3 people were killed and dozens injured in Sudan's capital after fierce fighting erupted between the military and the rapid support forces. In a statement, the Sudan Doctors Committee said 2 civilians were killed at the country's airport and another man was shot dead in the state of North Kordofan. The group added that dozens more were injured around the country, with some in unstable condition. The clashes began with both sides blaming the other for initiating the violence. The clashes came as tensions between the military and the RSF have escalated in recent months, forcing a delay in the signing of an internationally backed deal with political parties to revive the country's democratic transition after the October 2021 military coup. The United Nations condemned the outbreak of fighting in Sudan and called for an end to the clashes between the army and the paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces. The UN representative in this African nation, Volker Perthes, established contact with both parties to ask them for a ceasefire and to guarantee the security of the people. On the other hand, it was learned that Army fighter planes are bombing positions of their rapid support forces in their main bases, and there are contradictory reports about those who control the airport of the capital and the presidential palace. On Saturday, Rwandan President Paul Kagame met with his Beninese counterpart, Patrice Talon. At the meeting, the Rwandan leader pledged military support to Benin to protect the border. Benin's foreign minister said in a statement that Talon and Kagame discussed relations between the 2 countries and the search for a strategic partnership in several areas, including security. Kagame assured his nation will provide all they can to contain spillover from conflicts across Benin's northern border with Burkina Faso. Benin last year said it was in talks over military and logistical cooperation with Rwanda. Kagame has already dispatched troops to help Mozambique and Central African Republic combat unrest. Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal al-Mekdad arrived in Algeria on an official visit as part of his Arab tour. Upon his arrival at Benin International Airport, Minister al-Mekdad was met by his Algerian counterpart Ahmed Attaf. The Syrian Foreign Minister is expected to hold talks with Algerian officials aimed at strengthening bilateral relations. They are also expected to review the latest Arab and international developments. This is the first country that al-Mekdad will visit as part of his tour. He will then travel to Tunisia, also to foster bilateral relations, and he will complete his Arab tour with a visit to Iraq. On Saturday, thousands of flag-waving Israelis rallied in Tel Aviv for the 15th consecutive week to protest against Benjamin Netanyahu's proposal to overhaul the justice system. The mobilizations in Tel Aviv reacted in favor of democracy and also refuses the leadership of the Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and the Minister of National Security Itamar Ben-Gvir. The judicial reform has unleashed a wave of discontent in broad sectors of the country, which has shaken the Netanyahu government in spite of the fact that the Prime Minister himself decided to postpone the reform to May in the face of the pressure of the protests that took place in the country. The Arab League condemned the Israeli restrictions and attacks against Christian pilgrims who travel to the occupied East Jerusalem for Orthodox Passover celebrations. In a statement, Abu Ali, Assistant Secretary General for Palestinian Affairs and Occupied Arab Territories, denounced Israeli actions that prevent the faithful from accessing and performing their prayers and religious rituals in the Mount Temple. Abu Ali criticized Israel's attempts to change the historical and legal status of the occupied area in Jerusalem as part of its war against the mere existence of the Palestinian people and their rights. The officials say that the terrorist attacks against Islamic and Christian holy sites prove the colonial, racist and fascist nature of the occupying forces. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSURenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.